Good morning, everybody. It's Pastor John with another edition of Monday Morning Quarterback. So yesterday we talked about trusting in the Lord. And I know that sounds like sort of a no-brainer from a Christian pastor to say trust in the Lord. But like I said, this sermon series, we're kind of going a little bit deeper into some of the scriptures that we're studying. And so we gleaned a little bit more out of it than just the simple admonition to trust the Lord. But Jeremiah says, he actually doesn't start with a blessing. He starts with a curse. He says, "Cursed are those who trust in mere mortals and make mere flesh their strength." But then he goes on to say, "Blessed are those who trust in the Lord, whose trust is the Lord." And, you know, the thing that I wanted to say about that is Jeremiah is drawing a very sharp contrast, as if we all walk around in our lives with two very clear and distinct choices. One choice is to trust in human strength. One choice is to trust in the Lord, and they're very clear all the time. And that's not always the case. The Bible and the people who wrote the Bible, the people who spoke in the Bible, all those things, they really did need to speak less in generalities and more in specifics so that people could recognize choices that they make and the impact of the choices that they make. But it doesn't change the fact that the choices are not always as clear and defined as we might read them in Scripture. And so what we talked about in the sermon was how trusting in God, what does it look like? And it's a daily practice. It's cultivated in a life of prayer, service, study, and worship. And we went on to say that trusting God is not a one-time thing. It's not like flipping a switch. It's learning to walk with Christ daily, hourly, minute by minute, second by second. Now, again, what's important about that is that we recognize that there are going to be times when we fall short. It's inevitable. But do we sort of get up and regroup and move forward? Do we trust in the Lord for grace when we do fail? Now, there are two very important things that I want to highlight from this passage from Jeremiah 17, verses 5 through 10. The first one is that Jeremiah draws a very clear contrast between human power and the power of God. Now, especially in our political climate right now, we need to recognize the limitations of human power. No president, no governor, no mayor, no city council person, none of them are ever going to save us. In fact, none of them are ever going to really deliver us, you see, because they are human. And human beings are susceptible to the whims of culture, the temptations of power, and all those things. So we cannot trust any of our leaders, even the ones that we voted for. We cannot trust any of them to do the right thing. We cannot assume they're going to do the right thing. We, as citizens, are called to be vigilant. And so when Jeremiah is saying don't trust in human authority, he's not saying ignore it. He's really saying hold them to account. And so that's the first thing I want to highlight, is that when, the trust in the Lord isn't just a saying in and of itself. It's contrasted with trusting in human power and authority. And so, we trust in the Lord, yes, but we also question authority, human authority, always, because that's our job. The second thing that I wanted to kind of highlight from this passage is that is that question of power. What is power? I mean, our president right now thinks that power involves just getting one's way and just bulldozing over everybody else and doing whatever you want to do. And that's the demonstration of power. But here's the thing, okay? Biblically speaking, that's not power. That's just temporary coercive might. Real power is lasting. Real power is everlasting. Real power is grounded in the love of God that we Christians know through Jesus Christ. You see, God's love is everlasting to everlasting. It's Alpha and Omega. It's the beginning. It's the end. Donald Trump's power will go away someday. Someday. I don't know when. I may not even be alive, but the impact of his power on this earth, or any leader's power on this earth, goes away. But the impact of the love of God and the grace of God through Jesus Christ, it only expands. It only gets bigger. And even cuts through when we try to act in ways that are contrary to it. So when we talk about power, we need to really start to understand what the power of God is, which is the power of love, and how to wield that power. And it isn't by running people over. It's by loving and caring for them as Jesus did. I'd love to hear if you have any comments or any observations, anything you'd like to share. Feel free to leave them in the comments section. And I hope that you all have a wonderful week. God bless.